Hello and welcome back to Ulama Gaming. I'm a few days late to this because they just closed the alpha, but over the weekend I got access to the Splitgate 2 alpha, which, yeah, if you didn't know what game that I'm covering, it was in the title of the video, and also, yeah, I'm telling you now. So basically, I know a bunch of other bigger YouTubers have gone over this game sort of already, but I wanted to provide a review in the sense of like an average gamer, you know, average Splitgate 1 player going into Splitgate 2, because obviously not a huge channel. And I have a lot more time since I don't have to like make content full time to just play games that I actually enjoy and not games that people just want me to watch me play. So, yeah, we're going into the review with that sort of mindset going into it. I can also go over the changes more individually and like the class systems and loadouts and what I personally preferred and whatnot. But I sort of want to make that a separate video, and today's video more just sort of like a review, sort of soft review, because obviously it's an alpha. I don't want to be overly harsh because I know that it's not a final product, but I just basically give thoughts, have a discussion about what I like, what I don't like, what I think probably other players are going to think about some of the changes, and yeah, so let's get into it. So first of all, anyone who's played Splitgate 1 knows that there wasn't a class system. It was more a traditional arena shooter, and there are still definitely arena shooter elements to Splitgate 2, but they seem to have more of this class focus, which in some ways is good, and I'll explain that, but it also, like I said, it takes away somewhat from that arena shooter standpoint and might cause some to think, oh, it's just another hero shooter. I would argue, from what I've played, it is not really a hero shooter. It's more akin to something like X-Defiant, if you play that, or the Finals, where you have certain preset characters, but it's not like people have a super long time to kill, or they have overpowered abilities or something like that. Still, it does lead to some of the stuff being like overly balanced, as some might say, because a lot of the weapons you can choose on spawn have to, like, they have differences, but they're balanced differences to prevent certain builds from being too overpowered on spawn, which is pretty interesting how they've managed to do it, because there are actually shotguns you can choose on spawn, which I would think would be highly divisive, but they play well, but they're still not actually OP compared to the other weapons. So I think they did that pretty well, but I would like to see more of the traditional arena shooter elements. Like, there's still power weapon pickups you can get, which are the less balanced, easy kill weapons that you can find on the map, like a rocket launcher, and they've done some neat stuff with those, which I'll explain. But I'd really love to see some of the ones from the last game come back, specifically like the BFB, which is just a rocket-powered baseball bat. If you didn't play Splitgate 1, it was literally one of my favorite weapons in the entire game, just because of how silly and over the top it was. But what I've seen so far in terms of the power weapons is good. Some people were saying like, oh, Portals doesn't seem to be as much as a focus, and you can probably play the game that way, but I still found myself using Portals lots of ways. I will say, however, that the maps in the playlist for the alpha seemed more like competitive maps and less like casual maps, and really as a whole the gameplay felt more competitive oriented than like your casual playlist. So maybe there will be more maps that are more casual oriented, game modes that are more casual oriented, but like I said, this felt like it was like if you clicked on Splitgate 1 and you clicked to ranked, this felt more similar to that. That being said, there's still obviously major differences, but yeah. How would a more classic arena mode work in Splitgate 2? I'm not entirely sure. But I will say the Arrows class, or the first one far left, the pinkish red sort of, their weapons, that's the class I'm playing right now on screen. I would say their weapons look most similar and function most similarly to the starting weapons in Splitgate 1. They could make that the default kit for the arena mode. Like, just have the Arrows assault rifle and pistol. I will say I do like what they did with the pistol, because early in Splitgate 1, if you played that, the pistol was good, and then they made it full auto, and it just wasn't as good afterwards. In this game, it's back to being semi-auto, and I really like how it works in this game. But that was just a side tangent. Their Eros' weapons are good from what I played. I had a personal preference for the SMG, which I'm using on screen now is the Super SMG, which has some cool mechanics to it. You can like split it in half for way higher DPS, or if you combine it into one, you can still use your abilities and stuff. So that's kind of an interesting mechanic they got there. The foobar there is the rocket launcher, and unlike in Splitgate 1 or Halo for that matter, instead of being a double-barreled rocket launcher, this rocket launcher has 3 barrels, and it has a little bit less AoE, but it still can one-shot capability. So it feels really good to use, but it also feels like it requires more skill to get that one-shot kill, which is kind of cool. I don't know exactly how people will feel about that, but it didn't seem overpowered that it had 3 barrels. So that was a good thing. I really didn't see people using the super weapons that much. And out of both of them, I saw a lot more people use the rocket launcher. I mean, that kind of makes sense because it's the only weapon in the game right now with one-shot capabilities. But still, I feel like it would be interesting to see more of these power weapons, spawns, and stuff. Because right now, there's literally the split stream, which is the SMG, and the rocket are the only things you can pick up on the map, which is kind of like it just doesn't really feel much like an arena shooter at that point, in my opinion. Which is why I said they should have this, because I don't think this is a bad game mode necessarily. Like I said, it just feels more ranked. I feel like they should have a more casual, more classic arena playlist. And like I said, they could even use the Eros kit as the default, like what everybody starts with. How skins work in this game right now, I'm sure there will be a lot more, because Splitgate 1 made money off of the cosmetic skins. But right now, each class has a male and female skin for their character, just one of each, and they look slightly different. The designs look pretty cool. Eros, in my opinion, looks the most like normal, like Splitgate 1 characters. But they all seem like they fit pretty well, which I like. The weapon designs look good for all of them. Their focus, I'll explain like more if I do another video on this game, which I'm sure I will. But Eros has more of a portal focus, because they have a grenade that can close the portals. They have an ability that allows them to move faster and get a little bit of a health boost slightly. And yeah, so each class has an ability. They have a passive ability that affects the entire team, and they have a grenade. They have 2 grenades they can choose from. Splitgate 2 actually introducing the first sort of regular grenade of sorts into the game. It's not a frag, it's a sticky, but still, it's a first to have explosive throwables in Splitgate, because before we just had the EMPs, which close portals. So Eros has the EMP essentially, but it also has the added bonus of it says being able to stun players. So it's nice that they added more utility. Eros also has a stim shot, which can heal themselves. The purple class, forgive me, I forget, Meridian, I think. They throw a healing grenade and one that speeds up or slows down time, depending on which team you're on. Which is very interesting because it even speeds up fire rate. I don't know if that grenade is overpowered or not. It did seem pretty powerful, though. It only lasts for a short amount of time, though, is sort of how it balances itself. But, I don't know, it might need more balancing changes, I'm not sure. And the final class, the orange class, my personal favorite, was the Sabrask. And they, in my opinion, had the best guns. Just in my personal opinion, I like using their guns the best. They have the ability to drop a shield wall as their main ability. I forgot, Meridian's ability is they can, like, wall hack, basically. Which some people might be sort of annoyed with that, but it just pings you through walls, essentially. Yeah, Sabrask, they can throw smoke grenades, or they can throw sticky grenades, which I personally prefer the sticky grenades. But yeah, there's just a lot of choices you can do, and you can also equip perks onto your character as well. So, and weapon attachments, which are also new to Splitgate. So there's a lot of cool things you can do in terms of character customization. It's just, like I said, I wish there was an arena mode as well for people who would prefer that. Because I know me personally, I think I would probably find myself spending more time in a more classic arena playlist, or something goofy like Splitgate 1 had, like Insta-Gib or Laser Tag. Which, if you don't know what those modes are, they're just fun party modes essentially that are not competitive at all. Like, they just give you like some of the silliest weapons in the games, or even one-shot weapons, and just everybody spawns in with and has fun making a mess everywhere. I think Splitgate 2 is going to need some of those modes to survive for longevity, because there's a lot of competitive FPS out there, and I feel like what it really needs to stand apart, like the gunplay feels really good, the graphics look pretty good, the system requirements, I'll flash those on screen, are surprisingly low for a game that looks like this. I mean, it is launching on PS4s and Xbox Ones as well as current consoles, so that's impressive in of itself. This game comes out next year, supposedly. Hopefully, it will have a lot more content. So in that first section of the video, I really just wanted to get a brief overview, and I apologize because it was by no means brief, but there is still so much I could have talked about, like game modes and whatnot. But I'm sure you can find those things out if you want to, or I can put them in a separate video after this one if this video receives enough attention, or I just feel like making another one. But now I actually want to go ahead and share my opinion of what I think about the alpha so far, what I like, what I do not. I sort of shared a little bit about that in the overview, so some of these statements might be repetitive, but also I'll talk about some other things and sort of like conclude the review, I guess. So the good, I do like most of the maps I've seen so far, but some of them feel a bit more competitive. Ohio, or whatever this map was called, or the desert one. I just saw the sign in the background on screen, and that's why I said that. I know that's not what it's called, but the deserty looking one is probably my favorite visually so far. It just has some cool little things going on too, with like there's jump pads on the map. I really enjoy those sorts of like small little like interactable things on the map. And the Eros like headquarters map, whatever one that's called, that one reminds me so much of a map on Splitgate 1. I can't recall the name of it, but it was another one that was in the sky. If you played it, you probably know what I'm talking about. It also had a pad on the bottom of the map, just like the first game, where you could teleport down to. The only thing that would make me like that map more is if we had infection in this, like we had in Splitgate 1. And that's another game mode I hope they really bring back, because Splitgate infection was just so peak. It is so funny to fly to spots the zombies couldn't get to and just emote on them. Bringing up another point, I hope they bring emotes back, because that really sort of like made Splitgate really feel sort of like Splitgate for me, was just the silly vibe of it. Like it was a seriously well made game, but it decided to take itself not too seriously. And I hope that Splitgate 2 doesn't make the mistake of trying to take itself too seriously. Which, I don't necessarily get that impression, but because of how competitive it feels, it just doesn't have the same silliness, like fun factor at all times. Which is obviously not a compliment. But I'm willing to forgive that, because it may just be this is what they wanted to show off in the alpha. They wanted to show off the competitive to the community, to get those types of players interested, which is sort of, I would say, a different crowd than what the first game attracted. A lot of the new stuff is, I'd say, to attract a wider audience, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but they need to do things to keep these audiences interested and to integrate the main Splitgate audience. Like, I would say, like myself, who enjoyed the goofier, sillier things that Splitgate 1 had to offer, and they need to get these other players to be able to appreciate that part of the game as well, and not just be like, oh, here's another competitive game I can download for free. Let's see if it's any good, and then drop it in a week or two. Because that's what a lot of these games are doing. Like I put on screen the finals or X Define. That's kind of the vibe that I got from them. And I did like those games. They had problems. But overall, I don't think they deserve to just die. It's just people just don't have the same attention for games anymore. And Splitgate 2 needs to sort of be able to hook and grab onto that attention somehow. And like I said, these goofy, silly game modes might be a way to do that. Because that's just something that a lot of these other free-to-play games are not offering. Is a more silly experience that doesn't take itself seriously, but is still seriously fun. I think Splitgate 2 needs a lot more of that. And like I said, I'm not going to complain about that too much. Even though I probably have a bunch this video. I'm not holding that against the game because this is an alpha. I recognize they're probably holding some of that back for the full release. I just hope that they are actually holding it back for the full release. It's still planned, definitely, and it's not something they scrapped to like hurry production and please investors or whatever. So barring that, the only other major problem I had was, like I said, I feel like this new approach, the class system that they're going for is good, but I feel like they should have an arena mode. Will that break the game if they don't? No. Like I said, I feel like the silly game modes are more key than having a classic arena mode. Although that still definitely would be very nice. I think, yeah, that would definitely be nice, like I said. But just silly stuff, silly skins, silly emotes. The only, like, I would say problem, I've already said major problem, but the only technical problem I experienced was no matter what I set my graphics settings to, I was getting frame dips, which I'm like most of these other problems I'm willing to forgive because it's an alpha, it's early development, well, sort of early development, it's not a finished product yet, so I'm willing to forgive that. But I'm not by any means running on the minimum or even recommended settings. So I should be getting a more playable experience, I would think. It could just be on my end. I don't know if I've heard anyone else complain about that, but I've had some minor frame drops. So I'm gonna go ahead and close out this review. For those of you who skipped to this part, because I'm probably just gonna include a button to go to final verdict. Would I recommend playing Splitgate 2 when it launches? Absolutely. Do I think it will be good? Most likely. I mean, it's probably going to be free because the first one was, so that's a huge reason to check it out. I flashed it on screen, the system requirements, somewhere in the video. It barely takes up any space, which is incredible for a modern game. I think it took up 7 gigabytes or something like that for the alpha. So you can't even say that it's too expensive on my hard drive. It's really not.
Going for a capture.
It's shaping up to be a good game, but there are, and I talked about those, some changes that I would love to see to turn it into a great game. Perhaps even better than Splitgate 1 if those things are executed properly. As of right now, if it continues the current path without changing, without anything launches like this, it's probably going to end up like X Defiant or the finals. I don't see any case where this game is just not popular on launch. But I really don't want it to be like Splitgate 1 again, where it's huge for a little bit and then just dies off. I hope this game can maintain a little bit more longevity. And I think it can. But like I said, in my opinion, I feel like there's certain things that need to change. Because the obvious...
Shake it off and try again.
So, final verdict, sort of, I guess. For an alpha, this is 9 out of 10. If this were to launch as a game, as is, 6 out of 10. It's an excellent alpha, but I have a feeling, or at least maybe it's blind optimism, I hope that they have more in store, and they probably do, that will keep this from being just a good or okay game to being a great game. Like I said, I hope they bring back in some of the content from Splitgate 1 that was so fun and made it what it was. I mean, this still does feel like Splitgate. It's just missing some of that goofy silliness that I hope they bring back in the full launch. And they probably will. Hopefully will. If you want to see more content on Splitgate 2, like me covering the classes, the loadouts, the maps, portal strats, I guess, although I only have the clips that I took from the alpha. It's not like I can get back in, but I have a couple hours worth of clips that I can put together and make some more videos going over Splitgate 2 stuff. If you guys would like that, just any of that sort of stuff, let me know in the comments. Like the video, and yeah, I'll definitely be making more Splitgate 2 content whenever this game comes out. So if you want to see any of that, make sure to subscribe.
Okay,
And thanks for watching. If you watched all the way to the end, I apologize for listening to me yap, but hopefully you gained some insight as to what I think they're probably doing, what I personally liked about the game, and hopefully you can sort of form your own opinions around the various other reviews and mine of this game about what you think about the game so far. And yeah, I hope you guys like the video. I hope that I see you when Splitgate launches fully next year at some time. I don't know when, but yeah, see you guys in the next video.